Good morning. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host of the program on church history, Dr. Richard Allinger of the Newburgh Theological Seminary down in southern Indiana, uh, Department of Theology, Division of Church History and Religious Education. I have a special guest with me this morning. It's Spectacle Program Director and Computer Tech Paul H. Herring Sr., and he's going to open up the program today by reading a verse out of the Old Testament, Daniel chapter Bible. Paul, could you open up and read that verse, please?
Sure. Daniel chapter 9, you said verse 14?
Yes.
It reads, "Therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil and brought it upon us. For the Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he doeth. For we obeyed not his voice."
Thank you, Paul. I wanted to ask the television audience of the program today if you'd ever been in downtown Flint on South Saginaw Street, where the Water Street Pavilion, University of Michigan Flint's administrative offices. In 2008, the Downtown Developmental Authority of Flint, called the DDA Flint, installed and constructed a new that really kind of brightened up and lightened up everything down there. So now that they had installed that sign in 2009, which was 15 years ago, I've been running my ads. I have now. Many of you may have seen that sign downtown, and I ran 4 of my ads on the digital signage downtown, and had built up a clientele of hundreds of students who had saw the sign. In addition to the digital sign downtown by the U of M administrative offices, I also put an ad of free instruction in the original biblical languages of Aramaic, Arabic, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin in local magazines. The East Village magazine, that is printed and published every month and distributed around the college campuses in Flint and down at the City Hall, and also the Concerned Pastors for Social Action Courier newspaper that comes out weekly. And I ran ads in newspapers and magazines, and I also had television and radio slots. And all together with the digital signs, I was able to put together quite a large clientele of interested students that wanted to study the original biblical languages. And the ad, like downtown on a digital signage board, the first frame, like each frame that they display moves. And there was 4 different frames that, they ran by the screen. And the DDA office is downtown, and there's a computer that they operate that sign on. And the 4 frames, each the screen that's downtown on the digital board, I would think, would display a graphic for you with your ad. And it's at least 15 to 20 feet, long, and about 5 to 6 feet wide, and it's all lit up at night too, and it's lit up during the day. Digital signage. You may have seen one of those digital signs on I-75 south and north, or I-69 east and west. But the reason I didn't put my ads on those signs, it's a different company called CBS, and they charge about $60,000 a year to run an ad on one of those, and that was a little bit too pricey for me. So the charge to run the ads down at the downtown sign by the DDA is a lot less expensive, so that's why I went there. And I've been able to run my ads down there. They ran consecutively for 15 straight years, and I got a lot of compliments from people that had seen the sign because the first ad, it had a picture. Well, the first big display of the ad that was lit up downtown said free instructions and biblical interpretation, and in the languages of Aramaic, Arabic, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin. And you church history and Bible college students know that Aramaic was like a dialect of Hebrew, and the Jewish Targums and Mishnah, rabbinic commentary, was always written in Aramaic, and it was the language of the common people in Jerusalem and Israel, Aramaic, whereas Hebrew was used by the priest in reading the Torah in the sanctuary, and Hebrew would be the book of Judaism called the Torah, whereas now Daniel, you heard Paul read out of Daniel, the Holy Bible, Old Testament, chapter 9, verse 14 today, and Daniel actually wrote his writings in Aramaic and spoke Aramaic too, in addition to Hebrew, when he was in Babylon under the Jewish captivity when King Nebuchadnezzar of the Babylonian Empire was the emperor at the time. And after the Babylonians captured Israel, they exiled a lot of the Hebrews, and Daniel was one of the Hebrews in the exile taken to Babylon. And Daniel lived most of his life in Babylon, and I believe he died there in his 90s. He was taken there during the Babylonian captivity after 586 BC, and he was just like a young man then, but he lived most of his adult life until he died in Babylon. And like I say, he wrote in Aramaic. Now, the other original biblical languages that I run that ad on, that digital sign downtown, was Aramaic, and the Hebrews and rabbis used that language. And then you had Arabic, and the Muslims called their holy book the Injil. That's the New Testament, and the Paul, do you know what the other name of the Muslim Bible is?
The Quran?
The Quran, yeah. That's in Arabic. And then the Levitical priests read out of Hebrew instead of Aramaic the books of Moses, or the Pentateuch, or the Torah. And then Greek is always been known as the language of the New Testament, Greek. And that was down there too. They listed on that digital sign downtown all those 5 different languages, and Latin. There was a man named Saint Jerome, and he translated the Bible into Latin for people, because the Roman Catholic Church for 1,000 years used Latin in their masses, in their services, and in their books, in their readings. And the priests in the Roman Catholic Church never read the services in English until Vatican II, from 1962 to 1965. That was the 21st Ecumenical Council. It lasted for 3 years, and that's when it was convened by Pope, in 1962, Pope John the 23rd, and It lasted for 3 years, and during that time, the Pope wanted to kind of update the Roman Catholic Church and make it more modern, and so the people he changed the Mass and the liturgy to English from Latin because it had been in Latin for 1,000 years, and that's why Latin is considered an original biblical language too. And the Saint Jerome, when he put that Latin version of the Holy Bible together, it was called the Vulgate. And then the Greek version of the Bible was called the Septuagint, and it was put together by 70 scholars in the Alexandria, North Africa library, 300 years before Christ, called the Septuagint. That's the Greek scriptures. And so that sign downtown gave all this information to passers-by, and it said free instruction, and then it said Richard Allinger, free instruction in these original biblical languages and Bible interpretation. That's what the first frame said. And then it would move electronically to another frame, but I'm going to tell you what each frame, because a lot of people complimented me on the fact that they had religious icons on them. And the first one, they had Jesus as the good shepherd with his shepherd rod, and he had sheep and little lambs at his feet. And it said underneath that, the caption, the words that Jesus said to St. Peter, "Feed my sheep." And that everybody liked that, and they complimented me on that, and that was ran downtown for 15 years. A lot of people saw it. The second frame, there was 4 frames that they ran by as an ad down there on that digital sign, and the second frame was a picture of Jesus praying in Gethsemane, in the Garden of Gethsemane. And in Luke, it says that an angel visited Jesus while he was praying in the garden before he was arrested. And the top of that icon said Bible interpretation of the Bible. So people that saw it, they all said, "Oh, that's a nice icon of Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane." And then when the nice picture of Jesus captured their attention, and then they saw that the ad was about Bible interpretation, and then all those 5 original biblical languages were down at the bottom of the screen. That was the second frame. And then the third frame was a picture of Jesus on the road after he was given a cross and compelled to walk down a road in Jerusalem called Via Dolorosa, and he had to carry his cross up to Mount Calvary where he was crucified. And there was a picture of Jesus carrying his cross on his back on this icon, and it said, again, at the top of the frame of Jesus carrying his cross, it said, interpretation of the Bible, free classes, free instruction. And it said open to the public. It's open to the public. And then it had the 5 original biblical languages on the bottom of the screen of Aramaic, Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. And then that was the third frame. And then the fourth frame, the last one, the 4 frames of the ad that ran by that people could see on that digital sign display was a picture of well, they had me in a suit of clothes, a black suit and a white shirt and a black tie, and I was receiving one of my doctorate degrees, and they put a picture of me up there because I'm the one that's giving the free instruction, and it's open to the public. Those words were on the sign too, and there was an attractive icon of Jesus also on that particular screen, and I'm trying to recall exactly. One was Jesus carrying his cross, one was Jesus praying, and one was the Good Shepherd. He said, "Feed my sheep." And there was one other one, if I could remember. I'll get back on that if I can remember. But there were 4 frames that were run by there with icons of Jesus and that information for students that might be interested in studying church history and the interpretation of the Bible. And the reason that I had to actually pause those ads and have them pulled, they can't display them no more, because the last 4 or 5 years when the COVID came out, that pandemic, I was sick, and I've been in the hospital, in and out of the hospital for 4 or 5 times, and have incurred about $235,000 worth of medical bills, and it became cost prohibitive for me to continue to pay the advertising of the digital sign downtown, and plus running my ads, for which I did all those years in local magazines and newspapers, television and radio slots. Because it cost me anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 a year, and I couldn't afford to keep paying that I had been paying for the last 15 years because of medical expenses. I do thank the Lord, and I give Him the praise for healing me. I feel better now than I have ever since the corona pandemic came, and I think I've come back to wellness again, and I hope I can stay healthy and be safe. Um, uh, the you heard me talk about Vatican II, and what happened during Vatican II, or it's always known as Ecumenical Council. That would be Ecumenical Council 22, because there was 2 councils before, or 2 ecumenical councils held by the Roman Catholic Church before Vatican II in 62 to 65, and it was called Vatican I, or Ecumenical Council 20, and it was held in a northern city in Italy. And when Ecumenical Vatican Council I, or it's called Vatican I, it was convened by Pope Pius the Ninth in I think 1840 no 1869 it was convened by Pope Pius the Ninth, and it only lasted not even a whole year. It was stopped by the Pope because there was Italian nationals that was encroaching upon the Vatican states, and it became so interruptive that they just convened. They stopped Vatican I because of that issue, and during Vatican II, which started in 1962, Pope John the 23rd, who convened Vatican II, actually died during this Vatican Council, and it lasted 3 years. So the church had elected Pope Paul the Sixth to take over for Pope John the 23rd. And during that time, if you can remember, in 1962 to 65, that's when John Kennedy was assassinated, if you remember. And the president was assassinated in Dallas, Texas during this time too. Not only did Pope John the 23rd die during this ecumenical council of Vatican II, but the President of the United States, John Kennedy, was assassinated. And it lasted 3 years, and it stopped in 1965, started in 1962. And then there was always known as the council, the Ecumenical Council number 19, that happened 3 centuries before Vatican I. And Vatican I, remember, was Ecumenical Council 20, and then Vatican II was Ecumenical Council 22. But if you go back about 3 centuries, you have what is called the Ecumenical Council 19. It's always known as the Council of Trent. And what happened was, and that was convened in 1545, about 18 years after Martin Luther had published his 95 Theses or indictments against the Roman Catholic Church. And so the magisterium and the Pope of the heads, the bishops and cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church, decided to have the Council of Trent so they could have a meeting of their minds to what they were going to do to counteract what Martin Luther started was the Protestant Reformation. And that's what the Council of Trent was back in 1545, and it lasted for until 1568. It lasted for 18 years, which was kind of a surprise to me when I read that, because most of the modern councils like Vatican II and Vatican I only lasted maybe a year or 3 years at the most, but they had to get their minds together as to what they were going to do to counteract the Protestant Reformation. That's what the Council of Trent was back in 1545, about 18 years after Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation in 1517 by posting the 95 Theses against the Roman Catholic Church. And that's why it lasted that long. And this is when Ignatius Loyola came about amongst the Roman Catholic magisterium to start what was called the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits, as to what they were going to do to counteract the Protestant Reformation. And at the same time, this Council of Trent would revitalize the Catholic churches that had been established before Martin Luther in Europe. That's the purpose of the Council of Trent. Maybe that's why it lasted so long. I've talked in my previous programs, and you can access them by going to YouTube homepage and putting Richard Allinger in the search box and hit enter, and then I have a playlist of all my podcasts that will come up for you. But in my previous podcast, I did talk about the first 7 ecumenical councils. Remember, after Martin Luther, in the progress of time, in 1517, around the 16th century, this was the 19th ecumenical council. The first ones we talked about, Paul and I, reading out of the Justo Gonzalez Stories of Christianity church history books, that there was the first 7 ecumenical councils after Jesus and the apostles in the embryonic, primitive, or ancient Christian church, the first 500 years. They started having ecumenical councils like the Council of Nicene, the Council of Chalcedon, the Council of Constantinople, and the Council of Ephesus. Them were some of the first ecumenical councils. But by the time that the 1500s and the 16th century started, the Protestant Reformation, they were up to number 19 in the ecumenical councils. And back in the first 7 ecumenical councils of the early ancient church, the first 500, 600, 700, 800 years of the church, the eastern part of the church over in the Greek Constantinople headquarters under Constantine, used to work in conjunction or collaboration with the Roman Latin Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. But and they all got together and they all came to a consensus on different issues, and they had successful ecumenical councils, the first 7. But after the first 7, there was a breakdown, and the East separated from the West. The Greek separated from the Latin. And see, the bishops and the Pope in Rome wanted primacy, and they wanted to be like considered the authority, and but all the other archbishops of all the other cities in that part of the world at that time did not want to be under the authority of the Roman Catholic Pope. They disagreed. They didn't. That's why the first ecumenical council stopped, because there was a breakdown in dialogue, and a big impasse has existed for ever since that time, over 1,500 years, where they don't even talk to each other, the East and the West, and there was a breakdown between the Greek Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church. The Greek Orthodox headquarters being in Constantinople, which is today the city of Istanbul in Turkey, and the headquarters of the Western Latin Church was in Rome. So there is still a movement on the part of the Roman Catholic magisterium and the popes, bishops, and cardinals called ecumenicalism, that tries to get all the different factions of the church to like work together, but they haven't been that successful because they don't see eye to eye. And most of the other archbishops of all the other cities, the principal cities over in northern Africa where the church started, and in Europe, they believe that the Pope of Rome is the first among equals, but he's not a superior authority, and they do not believe they have to be under his authority. They don't agree with the Roman Catholic Church doctrine and the papal decrees. That's why the Protestant Reformation started. Martin Luther mentioned a lot of the papal decrees that he thought was unscriptural in his 95 Thesis, and some of the Roman Catholic doctrine with their Mass, their sacraments and so on, the Protestants disagree with, and that's why it's been kind of like a schism in the church world ever since the Protestant Reformation. That was just a little bit of review of some of the things I have spoken about in the previous sessions of church history. We talked about in some of my programs about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a Bible college teacher in Nazi Germany, and he was underground. And there was a theologian from Germany named Karl Barth, and a lot of people want to put him in the category of neo-orthodoxy. And Karl Barth was so vocal and against socialism and what the Nazis had done to Christianity by twisting the scriptures when Adolf Hitler was in power, that they had to actually kick Karl Barth out of Germany, because he was like Dietrich Bonhoeffer too. Karl Barth and Dietrich Bonhoeffer like kind of rubbed shoulders, and Karl Barth used to teach at the University of Berlin, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer was one of his students. They had to actually, the Third Reich under Hitler actually killed Dietrich Bonhoeffer because he was caught working with an invisible network in Nazi Germany to assassinate Adolf Hitler, in addition to teaching the Bible too. See, the Nazis wanted to supplant Christ and have the people of Germany kind of forget Christ and make Hitler the Christ figure, and that didn't go over good with the Lutheran Church in Germany. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer spoke out against that too. And that's why Karl Barth and Dietrich Bonhoeffer were not celebrated or believed or accepted in Nazi Germany. They were expelled or killed. And there was one theologian who was a follower and student of the 19th century Friedrich Schleiermacher, he was the father of liberalism. And there was another German theologian called Adolf von Harnack at the time during the Nazis in the 20th century. And because he was a theologian that believed in the teachings of liberalism, the Nazis liked him because, see, liberalism goes away from orthodox biblical interpretation. And that's why the Nazis liked Adolf von Harnack. And he was one of the German theologians that the Nazis liked and didn't make a problem for. Paul, how much more time have we got in the first session?
You have about 18 minutes.
Could you turn to the Bible? Could you turn to Matthew chapter 27? Could you find it?
I'm going to look. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah. While Paul's looking, I just I think that, you know, running my ads for 15 years before that was my way of giving back to the public free instructions in the original biblical languages and church history and Bible interpretation. But because of the sickness that I have just went through, I had to pause all the ads in the newspapers and magazines and radio and TV
what
slots.
What am I looking for again, Richard?
Matthew chapter 27.
Matthew chapter 27.
Yeah, I could no longer afford to pay a $30,000 to $40,000 advertising bill, so I've had to have them pull those ads downtown. So you won't see them no more downtown, because it became too expensive for me to keep up with all the medical bills I've had lately. But I'm on my road to good health again.
Matthew chapter 27.
Yes.
All right. And is there a verse or the whole thing?
Yeah, start with verse 1.
All right. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. 2. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. 3. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again 30 pieces of silvers to the chief priests and elders. 4, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that. 5, and he cast down the pieces of silvers in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. 6, and the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them unto the treasury, but it is the price of blood. 7, and they took counsel and brought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. 8, wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. 9, then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of the children of Israel did value. 10, and gave them for the potter's field as the Lord appointed me. 11, and Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, art thou the King of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. 12. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. 13. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witnessed against thee? 14. And he answered him to never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. 15. Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. 16. And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. 17. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ? 18. For he knew that for envy they would deliver him. 19. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. 20. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. 21. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twine will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. 22. Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all said unto him, Let him be crucified. 23. And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. 24. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitudes, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. 25. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children. 26. Then released Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. 27. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus unto the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. 28. And they stripped him and put him in a scarlet robe. 29. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they had put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed and kneeled before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. 30. And they spit upon him. And they spat upon him. I lost my place. What was that? 29. What was the last one I read?
You read, they spit upon him?
Yes. Oh, there you go. 30. And they spat upon him and took the reed and smote him in the head. 31. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off of him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. 32. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they were come unto the place called Golgotha, that they say a place of a skull. 34. They gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall, and when he had tasted therefore, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which is spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vestures did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there. 37. And set up over his head his accusations written, This is the Jesus, the King of the Jews. 38. Then were there two thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. 39. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads. 40. And saying, Thou that destroyest the temple, and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. 41. Likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribe and elders said. 42. He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. 43. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. 44. The thieves also which were crucified with him cast the same in his teeth. 45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness all over the land unto the 9th hour. 46. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani.
Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani.
Sabachthani.
Yeah.
That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? 47. Some of them that stood there when they heard that said, This man called for
Elijah.
Eliza. Okay.
Yeah.
And straightway one of them ran and took a scourge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave him to drink. The rest said, Let be. Let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. 50. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. 51. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and rocks rent. 52. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. 53. And came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went unto the holy city, and appeared unto many. 54. Now when the centurion and they that were with him watched Jesus, saw the earthquake, and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. 55. And many women were there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him. 56. Among which was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Hosea, and the mother of Zebedee's children. Zebedee's children. 57. When the even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea, named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple.
Joseph of Arimathea, yeah.
58. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out of a rock. And he had rolled a great stone to the door of the scapula, and departed. In the scapula?
Yeah. Sepulcher.
Sepulcher?
Yeah.
And departed. 61. And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre. 62. Now the next day that followed, the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate. 63. Saying, Sir, we remember that the deceiver said, while he was yet alive, After 3 days I will rise again. 64. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the third day, lest his disciple come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead, so the last error shall be worse than the first. 65. Pilate said unto them, Ye have a watch, go your way, make it as sure as ye can. 66. So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. Am I to continue through chapter 28?
No, you finished chapter 27?
That was 27.
All right, and how much more time in the first part of the show?
You got about 16 minutes.
Oh, well, what I wanted to tell you, I remembered now the other picture of our icon of Jesus on the digital sign downtown on my 4 ads that they ran was Jesus was in the Jordan River, and John the Baptist was baptizing Jesus, and the Holy Spirit dove was coming down. That was on there too. And these were some of the religious or sacred art icons that really added to the beauty of Flint's downtown. Seeing Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus carrying his cross on Via Dolorosa, Jesus the Good Shepherd, and saying, Feed my sheep. And then John the Baptist baptizing Jesus. John the Baptist baptizing Jesus in the Jordan River with the dove coming down, a sign of the Holy Spirit, before he started his earthly ministry. Also, I wanted to tell you that the week following Father's Day in June this year, Monday after Father's Day Sunday, the National Baptist Convention held an annual Congress or convention in Memphis, Tennessee, and pastor, teacher, Dr. Henry Fuller and his wife, Dr. Marilyn Fuller, attended the annual Congress, National Baptist Convention down in Memphis, Tennessee, and they elected a new president. The former president was Jerry Young, Dr. Jerry Young, but the new president they elected once the convention was convened in Memphis, Tennessee during the week after following Father's Day in the middle of June. The National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated elected a new president, and to replace Dr. Jerry Young, and his name was Dr. Samuel C. Tolbert Jr., and he's from St. Charles, Louisiana. He's the new president of the National Baptist Convention. This last week, Pastor Fuller and his wife Marilyn returned back from attending that convention along with 10,000 other delegates that all convened there in Memphis, Tennessee. You know their headquarters is National Baptist Convention is in Nashville, Tennessee. Paul, how much more time before this section?
Well, you're about 9 minutes away. 9 minutes away.
Oh, well, I wanted to remind you that the 18th annual Flint Prayer Chain Day is the event has been scheduled to be on the front lawn of the Genesee County Jail instead of Flint City Hall. And Sheriff Swanson, who has replaced retired Sheriff Piquel, has opened up the restrooms for the public to use when they're there on the front lawn of the Genesee County Jail for this 18th annual Flint Prayer Chain Day event that will be taking place Saturday noon downtown, Saturday noon, September 28th. We hope to see you there.
It's been a bunch of different places, hasn't it? Do you remember where Prayer Chain Day started?
Yeah, it started way back in the 90s with Geneva Spheres, and then but they say that they kind of call this the 18th annual, uh, and yeah, they could have went back like 30 years because it started 30 years ago. But for the event schedule, the steering committee calls this event that's scheduled September 28th.
Yeah, well, Geneva used to do the praying at the liquor stores.
Yeah.
On the weekends, and that's what evolved into the prayer chain day, I believe.
Yeah, they used to march in different places all over Flint. Yeah, the Flint Prayer Chain Day, starting with Geneva Spheres. Now that she's deceased, Pastor Scott Beck of Bethesda Temple on Leland Street now is the one who is
The leader.
he's like the leader now, and he will be speaking downtown when that event takes place. Pastor Scott Beck.
I liked what he said last year. He looked out over the crowd and he says, "It looks like we need to get more chairs."
Yeah, and another thing I liked what he said was Flint needs prayer. Yeah, everyone needs prayer. Prayer is the key. Faith, the Bible says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
So do you remember the first year you attended Prayer Chain Day?
Well, the way I found out about Prayer Chain Day was not the newspaper or ads like I ran, but you had a television program on Channel 17 Public Access Comcast Cable where you had the event actually televised. And that was for me back in 2009, 2010. And after seeing it, I decided I would go to the Flint Prayer Chain Day event myself after watching your coverage of it, Paul.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And then some 20 years later, you are still involved.
Yeah.
Great. Well, you got about 5 minutes left. Is there anything you want to do? Go ahead and invite them back down to Prayer Chain Day. Give them times and dates and all that kind of stuff. You can never do that enough.
Oh, well, they call this the 18th annual that's coming up, and it will be, instead of the City Hall front lawn, it will be across the street at the Genesee County Jail front lawn.
So now why did they move to City Hall?
Well, I think they wanted to move closer to so the inmates could hear the music. Yeah, because they have musicians and singers, and they bring different pastors to bring messages, and that way the inmates can hear the event going on too better. And also Sheriff Swanson has given the use of the public that are there for that event of the restrooms that are in the county jail building, instead of using porta potties like they did when it was across the street.
Nice. Now, are you planning on attending?
Well, I was going to ask you if you could take me when you go. Can you pick me up?
You got to go early. You know I record it. So.
Yeah, I can go early.
Okay.
Do you mind picking me up before you go?
Not at all.
Okay, I'll get my red T-shirt. I've got my red Flint Prayer Chain Day group T-shirt I wear.
Okay.
Yeah. And being in September, it'll probably be warmer because sometimes they're in October and it's colder. But
I don't know. It's 50 degrees out there now. It's the 1st of July.
Yeah, we've had a cold spell, haven't we, this week?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, all right. It's almost time to wrap up. Do what you do.
Okay, well, we hope that you'll come right back. And how much more time have we got?
No, we're at the end. No halfway mark today. You made it all the way through.
Oh, well, now that we're at the end of this would be the July 2024 Richard Allinger Presents Lessons in Church History. And this is going to be the end of the session. I thought we still had more time. I was going to ask you to come back, but we'll pause the programming for July of 2024 and hope to see you in August of 2024 for a continuation of church history programming. This is Richard Allinger Finn and Paul Herring saying we're going to vacate the premises standing on the promises of God, and hope that you all remember what I've always used to say at the end of my programs. Paul and I were made in Flint, and we're proud of it. Aren't you proud of it, Paul?
I am.
Okay, well, thank you for televising the program and helping read the Bible today. Yeah.
All right.